Hello, hello, everybody. We have the incredible Mariel Molina, who plays Lala Dominguez on NCIS Origins with me. How are you?
I'm good, Kyle. It's good to have you and to be here with you. How are you?
I'm not bad. It's funny. We did interviews all morning together, and now I'm
Yeah,
on the other side of it, and I just want this to be an easy conversation between two
and it
friends
will. It will
who uh,
be.
who just want to share a little bit, which is cool. Thank you so much for doing this with me.
Thank you for doing it. I know we just talked about how, you're tired and you do a lot and you got a family and you got a baby and you're doing this. So I'm really proud of you and I applaud you for on top of everything donating your time to this because it's important and I see you, man.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. It's nice to be seen. Thank you. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Of
But you're right.
course.
It is important. We kind of go through life, um, and I always have this feeling like we go through different lives. Like we live many, many lives within the one that we ultimately end up with, right? Call them chapters, call them whatever you will. I've lived many lives to get to 40 years old and have
Hmm.
a family and a daughter. I'm 4 years sober. I used to party a ton and run away from problems, and that was a chapter in my life that I closed ultimately with the help from good friends and being able to talk to some people in therapy. And so I'm an advocate for mental health. I'm an advocate for having the conversation and making it easier. Um,
When did you start therapy?
so I kind of wanted to start therapy when I was a kid. I brought it to my folks,
Hmm.
and I came from a loving family. My parents loved me very much. My mom was divorced and remarried, and I got lucky with my stepdad. I called him dad. He
Hmm.
was a good man. He took care of me. I love him very much. But when I brought up therapy, kind of in the household, it was like, "There's nothing wrong with you. You don't need
Yeah,
to. What's
yeah,
wrong with you?" And
yeah,
I was a kid. I was like, nothing, I guess.
yeah.
Nothing. Never mind. And so it wasn't until I want to say probably in my mid to late 20s that I got into it myself. And that was just, it was kind of like bad relationship after bad relationship. And I was boozing and using that as a form of escapism. And finally in my early 30s, I kind of recognized that like I needed to do the real self work
Mm.
to kind of like learn to love myself again. And for me,
Hmm.
that was kind of like finding my inner child again.
Right.
For me, that was kind of like when I was 6 or 8 years old, and I remember fantasizing about being a grown up. I didn't fantasize about sleeping with models and popping bottles of champagne at clubs. um, I fantasized about being a professional athlete and, having good people in my life that loved
Right.
me and supported me. And I wanted kids. I always knew I wanted to be a dad. And, I'd grown up not to become the person that my inner child wanted me to be. And
Right.
so when I looked in the mirror, I wasn't really happy with myself. And it took me a long time to figure that out. And then, after being sober for 6 months, it was kind of like that. Like I looked in the mirror one morning and I loved the person who was looking back at me. Like I
Wow.
genuinely respected myself for the first time in a long time. And
Wow.
um and then good things started coming into my life. I met Katie, and
There
you know,
was that clarity.
you're going to attract. I feel like you attract into your life what
What
you
you're ready
what
for.
what you're ready for and what you also put out into it. Like if you put out a ton of negativity in your life, you're going to attract
Yeah.
negativity. If you're going to
Yeah.
put out positivity, or at least you're going to try,
Yeah.
you're going to attract people who are going to try to bring positivity into your life as well.
Yeah.
So that's kind of like where I came from. My generational experience growing up
Hmm.
with mental health, and the opportunity to talk about it at a young age. What was it like for you? Where did you grow up? So
Mhm.
geographically, like
Yep.
where did you grow up? What was it like in your household? I think there's an 8, 9, 10 year age gap
No,
between
like
us,
20, I think, actually.
right? I mean, I, I was just trying to say I look good for 40 something.
No, I grew up in San Diego.
Hmm.
Um, but both my parents are from Mexico City, and they came to San Diego from living in Mexico City, you know, 30 some years ago, or a little bit more than that. And there's a little bit of everything that I think has contributed to how I grew up, in sense of, well, the Mexican culture already is, there's a little bit of machismo, obviously, and I think that can be incredibly detrimental to
Hmm.
men and how they show up, because it's much like, the generational gaps that you've talked about, that it's the strong man, it's the man that has to be the provider, the just, the statue made of stone.
Hmm.
And I also feel that even more so, I think, my mom grew up with uh two very stern parents as well, who really, just worked their ass off to get to where they were, and had that same mentality of, like, you push through it, you don't talk about things, you don't talk about
Hmm.
emotions. And so I think that trickled down with us, because I think anytime that things were sad, or that we felt sad about things, or that maybe your emotions weren't what was okay,
Acceptable.
or acceptable,
Yeah.
it was immediately like, okay, a kind of like, okay, we need to stop crying, we need to stop this. Instead of maybe sitting down and unpacking, like, okay, why are you feeling this way, right? And I don't blame my parents at all,
Hmm.
and I don't blame this way of looking at life, because I do think, like, that's what they grew up with. That's what they know. And I think, even with all of that in mind, I already feel like I got a way more emotionally available mother than what she got, right?
Sure.
Because
Yeah.
she's looking at what she got, which was like zero, not a hug, not a this. And
Hmm.
so I remember one time, after having like a conversation with my therapist, just being like, Mom, Mom, you never, like, you were just never very, like, um, physical. There wasn't like a lot of physical touch, there wasn't a lot of hugging, there wasn't a lot of this. She's like, what do you mean? No, I did. I hugged you guys all the time, and like, everyone remembers things so differently. But
That's the
it was,
truth.
it's so crazy. And then my dad, it was the same. It was kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I sometimes see him in a way that was also the softer side,
Hmm.
because he was very sensitive, but I think that sensitivity was immediately just like protected by the
Hmm.
shell of what he felt that he needed to be. And so that ended up having such a detriment to the family, because my dad, like, suffered completely from depression, like,
Hmm.
very bad depression, from when I was a little girl. And I didn't understand it at all. I thought that it was normal, because we never spoke about it. It was never talked about.
Right.
And it was definitely nothing that I could bring up, or perhaps, I think, like, if I'm really thinking about it, I think maybe my mom didn't really even know that it was depression, or wanted to accept it. And
Right.
neither did my dad, until I think way later in life. But yeah, I mean, it was. I look back now, and I really think, like, if I would have had the tools, or if someone would have had the tools to sit down and talk to him,
Hmm.
and make it seem that asking for help is acceptable. And I think for me too, something that I always think about with mental health is like, I hate that we put it in a different box. I hate that we make it this thing that's like, okay, you have your regular health and then you have your mental health. To me, it's all one and the same because your
Right.
mind affects everything. Our bodies are so incredibly smart that when you're not doing okay mentally, when you're in a
Hmm.
depression or any type of psychological sickness, which is a sickness that can be
Hmm.
treated,
For sure.
it affects the rest of your body. Like our bodies are so smart. It can, I mean, I just think it ends up having effects that can lead to cancer because of stress, because of um, just your body trying to react to whatever is going around in your mind. And a lot of times, men don't even know what that is. They don't have the words to even know what they're going through. And they think that it's just like you were telling me about your friend. It's just us going through every day. It's just getting through it. It's just waking up, it's getting through it. But I think what happens is if every day you're just getting through it, you're just getting through it, that little, what started off as a mustard seed then becomes this avalanche of uh, problems that then you don't have the tools to deal with. And then, you know, then the stuff happens that is just obviously really, really sad, you know?
Of course. Of
Mhm.
course. So in this day and age, we have the internet. We have all these tools. You know, they're much more on hand for us than they were for our parents' generation.
Yeah.
I think that's an incredible thing because we can also do that behind our own closed doors. We can look things up. Now, there's a danger to the internet. You know, you want to make sure that whatever websites you're using are vetted properly, and the information that you're taking in isn't on some random Reddit board. You know, we want to make sure that we're going to the proper websites to do our due diligence and do our research about this stuff. But we have the opportunity now to kind of pave the new way.
Mhm. Mhm.
I've got my daughter. You know,
Yeah.
I like to think I'm a good person, but at the
You
same
are.
time, I hope that when she's ready to date, whoever it is that comes to the door
Yeah.
and rings my doorbell, and I go, "Who the hell are you?"
And you slammed the door back.
Oh, yeah, and I reenact the scene from Bad Boys. Uh, you
Exactly. The
know,
best. The best.
I hope that they're equipped with better tools than I am.
Totally.
So
Totally.
the
You
idea
would
of
hope that we're evolving, right? We're not like going back.
exactly, exactly. Why is this important to you? Why is talking about mental
Well,
health, and
I
we're
also
really talking about mental health in general. It's not just
right, right,
men.
right, right, right,
It's
right, right.
it's just
Um,
yeah,
well, also I want to say with what you were saying about access these days, it is such it's so fortunate that we're in a place where there's so much more resources. I think that's what's so cool about this fundraiser specifically because they have different projects and they have different ways of helping people in need. Because I also think that one of the things that I always found when I was growing up and maybe I wanted to do therapy in college is that it's a luxury. I couldn't ever afford it. I couldn't
hmm,
ever afford to go to a therapist, and most insurance programs don't cover therapy.
right.
And so I think if there is a resource that is able to help you, then you need to take advantage of it. And if there isn't, and if you're not ready, like one thing that has helped me a lot in my just a daily practice, and it sounds kind of dumb, or it felt dumb at first when I was first doing it, is I started doing morning pages where you just write your like stream of consciousness
Yeah.
for 3 pages. And at
Yep.
first, I just got like the smallest journal that I could find because I'm like, great, I'll fill in these 3 pages very easily. And then it actually became a really solid practice because it's like all the negativity, all the doubts, all the fears, all the all the stuff that is just like in your mind, you just get it out, you know? You
Sure.
just get it out and it's out there and then it's like, okay, now I can start my day. And that's something that I don't know that I wish I knew sooner that can be a little less threatening than perhaps therapy if you're not ready to make
Hmm.
that step, or if you want something that's a little more introspective that I found really helpful. But I mean, listen, first of all, I think men's mental health is very important because of everything that we've talked about, because of the stigmas, because of just the lack of importance that we have given to men's mental health for years and years and years. On a more personal note, I mean, I have two older brothers who I adore. And it's funny talking to you and doing this with you even inspired me to just literally shoot them a text. Like, what does it take? Nothing. 5 seconds. I
Right.
put them in a group chat and I was like, hey guys, it's Movember and I'm thinking of you guys. And it is never a bad time to like get into therapy again.
Yeah.
And it's, I don't know. I think it's like, I just know how much they're holding in. I know how much they're going or they're not able to share um or feel like it, you know. And even my brother texted back, he's like, you know what, you're right, because even if everything is going okay, you should go. And I'm like, yeah, because it's like how your mom said, my mom would say the same thing to me. It's not
Hmm.
about going because you have a problem, right?
Hmm.
It's
Right.
about getting ahead of it. It's about the prevention.
Right.
And also, you discover so much more about yourself. I mean, it's what it has done for me is so helpful. I remember I got into therapy when I was going through a very tough decision of whether or not I wanted a person in my life forever. And it was actually my boyfriend at the time who suggested, you know, you should get into therapy. And this is going to sound very funny, but I always just thought like that's like such a like a American white privilege thing.
I
Like
don't disagree with you. It sounds like it for sure.
to be in therapy. I was like, you're
Hmm.
cute. Like you're in therapy, you know? I was
Right.
just like, I can't afford that. Like I'm not gonna go and talk to a person. Thankfully, I was living in LA at a time and there was this great place, Maple Counseling Center, that would take whatever you could pay according to your tax return. And
Cool.
I was not making a lot of money. So it was like 20 bucks.
Sure.
And and not only did I discover things about what I wanted to do with my life and who I wanted to be with and my relationship, but I ended up talking about my dad who passed away when I was 15 years old and I had never ever dealt with that.
Right.
And I had put that in a little pocket and like shoved it in a drawer and thought truthfully like, oh, I dealt with that. Like that happened so long ago. Of course it's over, it's done. And the moment I start allowing myself and giving me myself the permission to think about how this has affected my relationships, how it was giving me just such a fear in my life about
Hmm.
losing someone,
Hmm.
that I was blocking myself from love, from opportunities because I was afraid of losing them because I had lost someone so special to me.
Hmm.
um it's been, I mean, obviously it's a constant, it's something you have to work at constantly. But I think at least therapy gives you the tools to to discover. and acknowledge things that you didn't even know were there.
Right.
And what you do with that, I mean, that's on you, right? But I think that's why this is important. It's like, let's make it so that it's not this weird taboo thing,
Right.
and let's try and make it a part of it, of your overall health and well-being. Like, if this were, if we could get to a place in this country, in this world, where it's a part of your health and what you have to do in order to be healthy, I
Hmm.
think we would see a much better society as a whole, and people, you know, coming together and understanding each other.
Sure, absolutely. There, I mean, I'm a big advocate for therapy. I'm really glad you brought that up because you also bring up the idea that, there's social workers that will take people on. There
Yeah,
are alternatives to finding therapy. And really, therapy is an outlet. Therapy, is you want to go to the gym and you want to hit a punching bag, or you want to go for a run, or you need to go for a walk, you need to get fresh air.
yeah,
Bottling things up, just it weighs you down. And sometimes
yeah,
just getting things out, there doesn't have to be something wrong. Sometimes
yeah,
it's just nice to unload,
yeah.
So thank you, Mariel, for sharing that. Is there anything else you do on a regular basis? Like, I know you're active, you're in good shape. You're always a joy to be around on set, which
Uh,
which I love. Um, a friend of
I
mine mentioned,
mean,
like, you park your bags at the door and you go to work and then you go home, and you live these
yeah,
two separate lives,
yeah,
which is kind of again a privilege for us to kind of be able to live these dual lives. But
totally.
you're constantly a joy to be around. I mean,
Oh,
what
thank
else
you.
do you do to kind of like take a breath when you need it?
Well, you know what? It's funny you say I'm a joy to be around, because I'll find that sometimes, I'm very high energy, you know that. I'm
Hmm.
very pretty optimistic, and I love to bring in that energy to work, and I love to make people smile. I'm an attention whore, I just love to entertain. I mean, that's why I got into this in the first place. But I've noticed, and I kind of also have these moments where I've noticed where there's some days I come in and my energy feels a little more down, or maybe I'm not as chipper, or
Hmm.
maybe I'm just like a little bit on edge. And I sometimes get this feeling of like, oh well, I gotta put it on. And then I'm like, you know what? No, I don't. It's okay. Like,
Yeah.
it's okay
Yeah.
if you have days where, you kind of want to put your chair separate to everybody else because you just need
Sure.
a little bit of alone time. And I'll have people who will come up to me and be like, "Hey, are you okay? Because I noticed that you're," and before me, Marielle, maybe 10 years ago, would have been like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm fine." And I remember someone asked me recently from the crew, like, "Hey, are you okay? I noticed that you're like a little more low energy." And I was like, you know what? There's just days where I'm a little lower,
No
but
doubt.
it's okay, you know? Um, and I don't know, I just thought I was like, it's okay to be honest and not have to put on the show always. But
I think everybody does that.
right?
I think everybody puts on these masks where they feel
For
like
sure.
this pressure to kind of be happy or be strong or be whatever it is. And you're really just kind of, getting in your own way if you don't allow yourself to go like, I'm just not in a,
Right?
Caleb. Um,
Totally.
Caleb calls them bad brain days.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah. Isn't that cute? I love
That's
that.
so
I'm just having a
cute.
bad brain moment, like just a, blah. I
Yeah,
was like,
yeah, 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 yeah.
the stigma off it and just goes, I'm just not having just having a bad brain day. So
Yeah,
um
totally.
he's one. We're very lucky to have him in our lives as well. And we're very
Oh
lucky
my God.
with
So I
our
mean,
crew.
no, we're lucky to have everybody. I mean, Austin, you talked about his conversation, but just what the heart that that man has, and how he shares it, and how incredibly open he is with his pain,
Mhm.
and the fact that we get to experience a little bit, or we both have, across the screen. I mean, listen, you asked also what I do. Acting, hello.
Therapeutic, isn't it?
It's like, I get to go through all my daddy issues through acting. No, but really, I think we're so lucky in that we have this vehicle to explore our emotions, to explore human emotions in general, and to try and be as truthful as possible given the circumstances, given whatever your character is going through. And I think within that, you're able to explore things of yourself. I mean, I really think like what really egged me on to have therapy was also when I was in acting class and
Mm,
starting to question certain scenes that were always giving me trouble. Why was that?
right. Yeah,
Right?
yeah,
What's going on there?
yeah.
And what am I blocking? And why am I
Why are the
blocking it?
walls up?
Yeah, why are the walls up when this is coming up, right?
Right.
So I think we're really lucky in that. And like I said, I mean, I want to reiterate this because I think it's so important, but I really, really, really think and believe, and this is something I texted my brothers before us jumping on the Zoom, so I
Yeah.
thank you. But I told them like, you know, our dad suffered from depression. There were days where he wouldn't, you know, weekends where he wouldn't leave his room, you know, wouldn't leave his bed. And I thought that was normal. I didn't know another dad that did, you know, I didn't know that was like my example. And it affected so much of his life and so much of what he felt of himself and his role as a father and as a man and as a husband.
Hmm.
And I wish that we would have had the tools that we have now because I think it would have changed the trajectory of his life. I think maybe he would be here today. He wouldn't be a chain smoker, you know, that affected his health.
Hmm.
Everything is such a domino effect. Um, so if there's anything I can do to help that in any way, like, oh man, I think it's so important.
Life is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Oh God, it's precious, precious baby.
Mariel, thank you for joining me today. Thank you for sharing so candidly and honestly. It means a lot to me. It means a lot to the people that are going to watch this. I just hope that if one person connects to this conversation for a brief moment, we've done something right. So thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you for giving your time and for also being so honest and open in all of your conversations. And love you.
Love you too. I'll see you at work in a few days.
See you.
All right.
Uh,
Ciao.
ciao.